This, my friends, is the IQUNIX OG80 Wormhole mechanical keyboard, and it looks absolutely mesmerizing from pretty much every angle, especially so when the lights are off like this and the RGB is on, and you can appreciate its translucent case that gives it this beautiful aesthetic. However, the OG80 Wormhole is no slouch when the lights are on either. Hello there. It's me. It's Nick. It's the ASMR nerd. And today we're going to be taking a look at this keyboard here, the IQUNIX OG80 Wormhole. This is one of the latest products from IQUNIX, and they sent one over for us to take a look at here. Today, this is not a review, it is a sponsored video, so they are paying me to show this to you. However, they've had no input on the content of the video, and all opinions expressed here are my own. So we're going to be doing an unboxing, we're going to be doing a sound test, and then I'll let you know what I think about this here board. This is the third board that I've looked at from IQUNIX, and I've generally been quite impressed with their offerings in past. The OG80 Wormhole is no exception, and I don't want to spoil things too much for you guys, but if you like the way this looks, just wait until you hear how it sounds. The OG80 Wormhole is a 75% or 80% keyboard is what IQUNIX calls it, but it's effectively a 75% layout, which is to say it's a compact, more ergonomic layout. It is a wireless keyboard, but will also accept a wired connection. It's got all kinds of other awesome features like hot swap sockets, Bluetooth, and 2.4 gigahertz wireless connectivity, and of course RGB. It starts at $170 for the most basic version, which lacks the RGB, and goes up to $210 US for the fully kitted out version, like this one right here. But if you would like to save some money off of the OG80 Wormhole, you can do so by clicking through on the link down in the video description. That will save you 5% on all of IQUNIX's products on their website, not just the OG80 Wormhole. The Wormhole has a fairly unique aesthetic, which you'll get a much closer look at here in a moment. But if you prefer something darker, there is the dark side variant, which is a blacked out version, which also looks really, really sharp. So let's jump right on into it. Let's take a closer look and then eventually a closer listen to IQUNIX's OG80 Wormhole. And here we have the IQUNIX OG80 Wormhole in box, and it's a pretty nice looking box, I would say. IQUNIX definitely knows how to present their products in an appealing and premium looking and feeling kind of way. I've been impressed with their packaging previously as well. We have this kind of slip piece here that says Wormhole. We've got this kind of grid design, and of course a picture of the keyboard here, and that is sitting on top of a black box with silver embossed writing. Got branding around this side. And on the back, we've got some specs. Let's see what they say here. Here's a picture of the keyboard, front and back. 80% layout, they call it, which it's really more of a 75% layout, but the naming conventions for layouts are kind of strange, to be honest, and not always that reflective of how many keys they actually have. I think I said the same thing about their A80 Explorer as well, actually. Tri-mode connection for that wired, that 2.4 gigahertz wireless, and that Bluetooth. Mechanical switches. We have many different options that the board comes with. I believe this one comes with the TTC Ace switches, which are fairly premium linear switches. So I'm looking forward to trying those out. Mac OS compatible, and Windows, of course. And key rollover. You can press down as many keys as you like, and they will continue to register. And hot swappable, which is great. So you can easily swap out the switches should you so desire. Handful of other tech specs: ABS case, PBT keycaps, USB Type-C connector, that sort of thing. And that's pretty much everything on the outside. So let's... Oh, actually, I lied. I have a little bit more info on the side here. We have another picture of the board. In theory, it should tell us whether it's backlit or not. You can get it either way. I believe this will be RGB backlit. All OG80s, as far as I know, are both wired and wireless, so that's a little weird. And here, yeah, it does say TTC Ace switches. So there you go. Okay, let's get this thing open, shall we? Have to slide off this slip piece here. There we go. We're left with just the black box, which, as I said, looks really nice. The camera doesn't know how to focus on it, though. Alright, let's open it up. Nothing on the inside. Put that aside for now. And here's our keyboard. Oh, I think this was actually supposed to be maybe up here or somewhere. I think this was supposed to be attached to the box lid, but it appears to have fallen off at some point in transit. It's okay though, it still felt well protected, solidly packaged. It's just a piece of foam. It's pretty dense. Here is the keyboard in a thick plastic bag. It has a really nice crinkle to it. We will take a closer look at that in but a moment. But first, we will see what else IQUNIX has for us in here. A really big manual. Is this the user guide? This is enormous. It is. Oh my gosh. Okay. So So it gives us connectivity options for wired 2.4 gigahertz with the USB receiver and Bluetooth. There's a full manual available online, of course. We get it in both English and Chinese. And that's it. So, despite being huge, it's pretty limited in what's actually listed in there or described in there. We've got an IQUNIX sticker, or a pair of them too, by the looks of it. We've got, oh, actually this might be the manual. Yeah, maybe so. No, it's the warranty and safety info. This keyboard is warranted for 1 year. 1 year, which is pretty typical. Okay, and then here we have some kind of interesting looking stuff. We have a collection of extra keycaps, which is always really nice to see. Some novelty keys and such, and Mac layout keycaps. These are dye sublimated PBT keycaps, which means they're made of PBT plastic, which is a nice high quality plastic. It won't shine up or wear over time. They should retain their nice matte, lightly textured look, even with the finger oils and things over time. And the dye sublimation part is how the printing is done. So basically, the dye is fused into the plastic more or less, rather than just printed on top. So in theory, these legends should never wear out. They should last for basically ever. Decently thick. Not the thickest keycaps I've ever seen, but not bad. A tiny bit of flex, but certainly thick enough to do the trick. We've got a handful of kind of fun novelty caps here. We've got this crystal looking one. We've got this DNA strand kind of look. We've got this cube. And we've got whatever this is. Looks like an hourglass, maybe? Yeah, we'll go with that. Kind of fun designs. Honestly, I'm not sure exactly what the aesthetic of this board would be described as. Once we get it out of the bag, you'll see more closely, but like, it's definitely a vibe, but I don't quite know what kind of vibe. But it looks good. We have a keycap and switch puller combo. The good kind. That's not going to damage your keycaps, so that's nice. We've got... I know what this is. This confused me with the last IQUNIX board I opened, but I know what it is now. It is a little brush. A little brush, which is very thoughtful of them to include. So you can clean your keyboard. Just slides out like that. That's kind of nice. And here, oh, I don't know what this is. What is this? Oh. Oh. Fascinating. It's a USB Type A to USB Type C adapter. Now, why would that be? It's female on both ends. Huh. Trying to think. maybe their cable. Nope, the cable is USB Type A on one end. So let's take a look now. So we have a white PVC cable here with USB Type C on the end that presumably plugs into the keyboard, and USB Type A on the end that goes to your PC. You could do that, but then you'd still need a Type C cable to connect to your device, so I'm not sure what the benefit of that is. Or you could do this, but then you'd still need a Type C cable to connect to your keyboard. So we're on A to C. That's mysterious. I'm not quite clear what the purpose of this is, but it is IQUNIX branded, and it looks nice. I'm just not really sure what it's for. Anyhow, I mean, I won't complain about extras. I suppose if you had two of these, you could use this as an extension, right? You could plug this in here and then just have another one of these, but we only have one, so I remain perplexed. But anyway, there it is. And we have also been given an alternate space bar and presumably a more fun color than the default. Oh no, actually the default has a graphic on it. You'll see that in a moment. So if you don't like that graphic, or you just want something more plain, that gives you the option. It's all nested in nice, dense, protective foam. Once again, very nice presentation. Looks good, feels good on IQUNIX's part. So that's great. Put that aside for the moment and look at the keyboard itself. Here it is. So let's open this bag. Like the sounds that this bag makes. So there's our OG80. It comes with a dust cover on it. A dust cover. And this bag, which we'll fold up. Okay, so here's the OG80. Like I said, it comes with a dust cover over top, which, if you really wanted, you could put on your keyboard when you're not using it. Although I doubt anybody does, but you could. It's there. And here is the board itself. So we have a 75% or 80% if you're listening to IQUNIX layout. But what that means is we have the standard alphanumeric suite here. We have one additional column on the right hand side that gives us some of the nav cluster functionality and allows us to have a dedicated arrow key set down here. Obviously, we've chopped off the numpad and some of the nav cluster keys, but we get them here and then a couple more up here as well. And then we have our full row function keys and our escape key. So aesthetically, we have some interesting stuff going on here. We've got this white and gray and green colorway, which I really like. And we've got a fun escape key up here that I guess is the wormhole. This is, of course, the OG80 wormhole. There's also a blacked out version, which I think they call the dark something. I forget exactly, but it's all black. And looks pretty mean, honestly. It looks very cool. But I thought this one was a little bit more fun, you know. Our space bar here. Our space bar. We've got the OG80 name on it here. Then we've got this fun grid that, again, I don't quite know what you call these vibes, but it's like, it's not quite synthwave. It's not quite vaporwave. It's kind of sci-fi, but a little bit retro. And that retro theme is definitely carried through to the case, which, as you might notice, is transparent. We've got some pretty radical design going on here. So we've got the transparent case, then we've got this really fun array of fins along the back here, which honestly looks like a big old heat sink or something. Obviously it's not, it's just plastic, but that's what it makes me think of. And that's a really cool aesthetic. We've got a little OG80 IQUNIX badge up here, very shiny. And you've probably noticed that the function row sits at this really sharp angle. It's canted up at a fairly sharp angle, which in theory makes it more easily accessible. You know, you don't have to reach quite so far. And we saw that design in the IQUNIX A80 Explorer design as well. The same physical layout and the same angled F-row here. But the transparent case is all new. And I believe if we take a peek here, we should find something hiding under this green strip up here. Not just aesthetically pleasing, but also a storage spot where we have our USB receiver, which I'm very pleased to see is matched in its color and design and labeled IQUNIX on it. So between having a nice little storage space and also being uniquely designed, you shouldn't lose it or mix it up with other USB dongles that you might have. So that's great. Happy to see that. Below the USB receiver, we have LED light strip, which has status lights on it, different colors that indicate different things like Bluetooth pairing or whatnot, charging status, those sorts of things. So let's take another look at this case because it's pretty cool. The plastic is ABS, and it is not like a crystal clear polycarbonate. It's actually kind of a matte finish, as you can see, slightly opaque. But I think that looks really nice, and the benefit of that is it's not going to pick up fingerprints nearly as bad as it would if it was a clear polycarbonate. On the back, of course, we have that, once again, that really quite striking array of fins, and way over here, USB Type-C connector for the wired mode. Nothing really around the sides to speak of other than more of that clear plastic design. Same goes for the front edge, which is quite narrow. You can see that the overall board does come at a reasonable angle. It sits at a reasonable angle. And then we have that very strongly angled F-row. And then this sort of back angled top here, forehead, which looks really cool. We have cherry profile, or actually, no, OEM profile keycaps, pardon me. Cherry would be a bit lower, but these appear to be OEM profile, which is a sculpted profile, you know, with good ergonomics, and one that you're probably very familiar with. It's a very classic profile, and I think it suits the aesthetic of this particular board quite well. It's got that retro kind of feel to it a little bit, although not as retro as something like SA, for example, which would be going even further back, but this has that nice kind of like 90s vibe, you know. And let's look around the back, shall we? So around the back, we have quite the display. There you can see the PCB, relatively unobstructed actually. I really like what they've done here. This is a nice layout, a nice visual showcase on the back. So here we have the PCB behind this slightly frosted looking plastic, and it kind of actually has a natural fade to it because there's an angle there, and so it you know, the distance between the plastic and the PCB increases up that way, so you get this sort of natural fade effect. This dark patch here is the battery. I believe this board has a 4,000 milliamp hour battery, which should be adequate for you know, most wireless needs. Should last for days, I would think, typically. And here we have a sticker, nicely thematic, matched with the design. OG80 layout keyboard, and a few tech specs over here. Underneath that, we have a switch that switches between wired and wireless mode, and presumably the switch between Bluetooth and 2.4 gigahertz mode is handled with key shortcuts on the front, but the switch toggles between the wired and the wireless. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 little anti-slip feet. They're pretty tiny, but you know, this keyboard, it has a good heft to it. It's probably around 1 kilogram. And actually, if you look at it, let's see if we can get a good look at the, it's hard to tell from this angle, but it's actually flared out slightly at the base. There's a slight angle here, like this, slightly canted out, which gives it a really solid feeling, because the footprint is actually a little wider than you know, the top, so it gives that really nice kind of anchored feeling, very solid foundation feeling when it's sitting on a surface like that. And I know that because the A80 Explorer was the same way. So that's the deal on the back. You can see the hot swap sockets on the PCB here. And the PCB is of course in black, which looks really nice. So visually, in terms of its aesthetic design, IQUNIX is killing it, which is not that much of a surprise to me. They usually nail their aesthetics. That's kind of what they're known for, I would say, is a really strong aesthetic designs. So let's talk a bit about these switches and keycaps. So I will pull off one of these keycaps. We'll take another quick look at it. We did see the ones earlier, but they are, as I mentioned, dye sub PBT. They're not going to shine up. They're not going to wear out. The legends are going to be on there forever, and they're always going to look nice and matte and kind of fresh like this, which is great. The caps, however, are not shine through. So, yeah, when you have the RGB version, you'll have RGB lighting coming through, between the keycaps, but not through the keycaps themselves. But that's pretty common these days. Honestly, I wish there were more interesting shine-through sets, but I do understand why, there often aren't, and why manufacturers opt for example, dye sub PBT over a double shot shine-through set. Okay, I'm going to grab the switch puller, and we'll take a closer look at that switch. So this board is outfitted with a TTC Ace switches, which are a somewhat heavier linear switch, and we're going to take a closer look at it here. You can also get the board with a variety of cherry and Gatoron switches as well. But I had never tried out the TTC Ace switches before, and I thought they would be interesting to try. They are a fairly mid-range to premium switch, I suppose. They cost a little over 50 cents a switch, so they're not your budget switches, but they're not your crazy expensive ones. But I would say mid-range to upper mid-range. And their materials reflect that. We have a POM plastic stem, which is a nice soft self-lubricating plastic. Should make for a nice bottom out and smooth action here. We have a nylon base, which should contribute to a thockier, softer sounding bottom out, and a polycarbonate upper case, which is going to allow the RGB to shine through and diffuse nicely. We have a diffuser lens for the RGB on top there, which again should help it transmit through the switch. As you can see, the stem has this sort of semi-enclosed box-like style, which I've seen on Outemu switches before and others, which should help with stability, which will be very nice to try out. The switch itself has a 60 grams bottom out force, so that's a little heavier than your average linear switch, but it only takes about 45 grams to start that action, so it gets a little progressively heavier to the bottom of that action. It's got substantial pre-travel, about 2 millimeters of pre-travel, and then of course it bottoms out at 4 millimeters, as is typical. So the substantial pre-travel should prevent accidentally, mishitting the switch, or the key, actuating keys without meaning to. Coloring wise, it's kind of fun. We've got this lime green stem and this mint green base, which actually matches quite well with the coloration on the OG80 Wormhole, which is another one of the reasons why I picked this switch. I think it aesthetically matches really well. You can see it is 5-pin, 2 contact pins, and then the central peg, and then 2 additional pins for stability on the side or for PCB mounting. But this is, of course, a plate mount design, so but that does mean, of course, that our hot swap socket here can accommodate 5-pin switches, which is great to see. I suppose, now that I'm looking at this, we actually have 2 PCBs here. We have one along the top here, then we have the main one down here, which is kind of cool. So we've got like a little separate PCB up here for the angled portion, which is kind of neat. we've got north-facing sockets with north-facing SMD LEDs there, which is fine. Shouldn't be an issue. No interference with our OEM profile keycaps, and of course it's in black, which looks nice. Let's give this switch a little sound test here. Let's hear what we've got going on. So a nice thocky bottom out, I would say. And our rebound noise actually isn't too bad either. And you know, I'm not sure if these come factory lubed. I don't think they do. But considering that it is not, it does feel nice and smooth. Very smooth, actually. Really pleasant. And not too much spring noise. A little tiny bit. But very minor. You're never going to hear that in normal operation. Only when you have it right up next to the microphone like this. Just the easiest, littlest, tiniest bit of spring noise. It is a gold-plated stainless steel spring. And the contacts are gold-plated as well. So, yeah, a fairly nice switch by all appearances. But of course, we will hear it when we do the typing test, which I suppose is going to be happening very shortly. But before we get to that, let's just do a little quick sound test here before I go for the full typing. I'm just curious. Not bad. Not bad at all. That's pretty darn good. You know, guys, keyboards are getting so good these days. Like, companies are really dialing in their layouts, their aesthetics, their sounds, their feature sets. I say this all the time, but there's never been a better time to be a mechanical keyboard enthusiast. The quality of the experience, the product, the components, materials, everything that you're getting for your money these days just continues to improve. And it is, very competitive industry. And you see that reflected in the value that these products are bringing these days. I mean, that sounds awesome. That sounds really nice. Let's see about the stabilized keys. Interesting point. Really kind of cool, actually, is that IQUNIX lets you pick whether you want cherry style stabs or co-star style stabilizers. So the stabilizers, of course, they sit underneath the big keys. They prevent them from wobbling too much. And cherry style stabilizers are the ones that you might be familiar with. Pretty much all boards feature them, or many do anyway. Co-star style stabilizers are a little different. Some people prefer them, but they are pretty finicky, I've found. And so I think I requested the cherry stabilizers on this one, and I think they are genuine cherry, but I can't remember for sure. The previous IQUNIX boards I've had have had the co-star stabs, and IQUNIX seems to favor those stabs. I will say they sound and feel nice. Their previous boards, their stabilizers have actually been pretty good, those co-star stabs, but I think these are the cherry ones. Let's give them a listen, and then I'll pull off a keycap and we'll take a closer look. So backspace. Very nice. No rattle. A thocky bottom out. It's not padded, it's not softened, but it's well controlled. Enter key. Pretty darn good. Just the slightest bit of rattle on the right hand side. But if you're pressing it in the middle, you don't hear it. Not bad. The right shift will not be stabilized because it's a shortened right shift to accommodate the 75% layout and the dedicated arrow keys. Space bar, notoriously hard to get right. Let's hear it. Not bad. I would say it doesn't quite live up to the enter in the backspace. It sounds a little bit hollow. Some people are going to like that. Others might like something a bit more dampened. But what you could do, I've had this suggested to me by viewers, is in theory, you could take some of that foam that it was packed into the case with, and you could stuff it inside the space bar to add a bit of sound dampening and improve that hollowness. I believe it was viewer Ice Regan who brought that to my attention, so shout out Ice Regan. Thank you for suggesting that. I've not tried that mod myself, you guys, but I might give it a shot with this keyboard. A little bit of rattle on there as well, but not too bad. Reasonably well controlled. Let's check out left shift. Very nice. Very good. So, really actually very impressive turnout from the stabilizers here. The spacebar being the only one they could use. Just a bit of work. It's just a little bit too hollow sounding for me, but otherwise really, really good. All right, let's pull off the backspace key, for example, and just see what we've got going on underneath. I believe we will have cherry stabilizers, and I believe they will be looped, because I certainly feel that way. There we are. So our stabilizers are in a milky white here. They are in fact cherry style, plate mount. There's a clip in there, so they would be very easy to take out, replace, or modify yourself if you wanted to. Pop them out of there, lube them up yourself, or do a little band-aid mod, pad the bottom out so that they're not a little softer, not quite so thocky. You could definitely do that. They are definitely factory lubed as well. They have a nice smoothness, a nice weight to the motion. It's hard to convey that here, but when I just pushed them down, I could feel there was some nice lubrication in there. So that would explain why they sound so nice. So, Co-Star or Cherry, it is your choice when you pick up this keyboard, or when you purchase it. They both cost the same, so it's just it's a configuration option. Honestly, I would like to see more companies offer your choice of stabilizers, because I've said this before, I'll say it a million times, the stabilizer sound and feel is one of the most important parts of the overall sound and feel of the keyboard. It's a really key contributor to the sound signature and the typing feel. And it's also one of the hardest things to get right from the factory. So props to IQUNIX for a really nice showing with their stabilizers here. Well tuned, well done. Okay, well, I suppose what remains is for us to take this thing for a spin so that we can see it and hear it in action. I think it's going to feel and sound really good. So let's take this thing for a spin. Let's get typing. And there you have it. We've now had a chance to see the OG80 Wormhole up close and personal and hear it in action as well. Now, I must apologize. I realized after I recorded the typing session, I actually didn't record any typing with the RGB lighting effects on, which is a real shame because this board looks gorgeous with the lights off and the RGB on. So I gave you a little teaser at the beginning of the video there so that you could get a feel for it. But I'm just gonna, let's do it again here. I'm gonna turn off the lights and you will all get a chance to see it one more time. So let's do that. Spooky, so dark. I will show you some of the lighting effects for the OG80 Wormhole here. So this is the default. I just gotta find my keys here. The default RGB effect that comes on when you first turn on the lights, which is this lovely ripple effect. But let's go through. We've got fading through colors. We've got a reactive mode. Oh no, a breathing mode. Solid colors. Color wave. Different kind of color wave. Cycling colors. Reactive modes. Well, another reactive mode. Just the key that you press changes. I don't know what this is. It's kind of cool though. Have a raindrops mode. Vertical rainbow. Sine wave. More rain. And I got lots of options here. Holy cow. And a solid color mode, it looks like. Alright, so I just wanted to go through those with you guys because this is a gorgeous keyboard with the lights on or off, actually. You know, you got to see a lot of what it looks like with the lights on, the room lights, I should say, the RGB off. But with the room lights off and the RGB on, front or back, this thing looks incredible. And you can see there is quite a bit of light that comes through that translucent frosted case, right? You can see it around the front edge, like so, and around the sides, and even on the back, where the LEDs shine through their own sockets, which is really cool. And you even get a bit of illumination along this, you know, these fins on the top edge there, which is really, really cool. So I just wanted to make sure I showed that to you guys before we carried on here because it looks really neat. Let's bring the lights back on here. Oh, there we go. So the OG80 Wormhole. What do we think about it? I really like this keyboard. I'll tell you that right now. And I mean, I like a lot of keyboards, but I've said it before and I'll say it again. You can tell when a keyboard is something special. At least I get a sense for it. Like if I want to keep going back to it and putting my fingers on it and typing with it and hearing it and feeling it and having that tactile experience with it, like if I want to keep interacting with it, then that usually means it's a pretty good keyboard. And I definitely want to keep interacting with this one. Every time I've sat down at my PC over the last few days while testing it out, I am delighted that I get to use it. And that is always a really, really good sign. Now, it may not be for everyone. I will say the sound signature is a bit less dampened than some of the boards I've had through here lately. It is currently in vogue to put lots of dampening foam or silicone, gasket mounts, these kinds of things into your keyboards to give it a really tightly controlled sound and a really dampened kind of typing sound and feel. This board is a little bit more aggressive, has a bit more edge, a little bit more bite to it, which I like, but it's going to be up to personal preference, really. But I've really been enjoying it, actually, I must say. It's a bit louder, of course, for that reason, but I still think it sounds excellent, and it has a slightly more old school feel to it, I guess, because it has a little bit more sound to it. This is equipped with the TTC Ace switches, which, as we saw, are smooth linear switches. But despite that, it does have a fairly, well, I don't want to say fairly, but a little bit more clatter to it than some other keyboards I've been looking at here recently. None of that is meant to be a criticism. Like I said, I think it sounds really good. The only thing I might change just a wee bit is that space bar. It is maybe a little bit more hollow than I personally like, but I will say the typing feel is excellent all around. It doesn't feel rattly, it doesn't feel cheap, it feels solid, and the switches themselves have a really delightful springiness to them. Specifically, the spring back is really, really pleasant. It just has a sort of a sprightly feel to it, It's just, it provides really good feedback and a good stability as well. Actually, those switches are really nicely stable. Overall, I have really, really enjoyed using this keyboard. I think it is really solid. From the aesthetics, which again may not be for everyone, but I think look pretty cool with the RGB on or off, to that typing feel and sound. In terms of its functionality, it has pretty much everything that you want. The layout is also really good by default. I do not think IQUNIX has software for this board yet. I checked on their website, and I believe they said that there is software pending, like there will be software for it, but I don't think it exists just yet. So, you would have to use some kind of third-party remapping software if you did want to change the default layout. But the way it is currently configured, as far as I'm concerned at least, is quite sensible and very functional for what I need it for. All the modes seem to work great. The Bluetooth works well. The 2.4 gigahertz works well. The wired mode, of course, works well. Overall, a really, really solid offering from IQUNIX. And I would say I like this more than either of their past two boards that I've used, which were no slouches either. The A80 Explorer was a very solid design, somewhat similar to this one in its form factor. And the F96 Joker was really unique and really, really cool in its own way. But this feels more refined. It feels more confident. And frankly, I just enjoy typing on it more. I think a lot of that comes down to the TTC Ace switches that are in here. But I think it's also due in part just to overall refinements in the build that IQUNIX has made. It certainly feels a little denser, a little less hollow, and just overall, yeah, really confident, really nicely tuned and presented. Those stabilizers, the stabilizers are really nicely done. These, of course, as I mentioned earlier, are the cherry style stabs rather than the co-star stabs that IQUNIX has gone with in the past. So if you like the look of this design, and it is a very unique look, and if you like the layout and the functionality and what this has to offer, I think it's a great keyboard. I think it's a fantastic keyboard. And it does have a lot of configurability options. You can configure it with or without RGB, with co-star stabs or cherry stabs, and with a variety of switches from TTC, from Cherry, or from Gatoron. The most inexpensive config is, I believe, $170 from IQUNIX. The fully loaded config is $210 from IQUNIX. However, if you're interested in picking up an OG80 Wormhole or darker sibling, the OG80 Dark Side, I'm pretty sure it's called. You can use the link down in the video description to save a bit of money. When you do so, you will save 5% off your entire order on IQUNIX's website. That applies to this keyboard. I think it would apply to anything on their website, I'm fairly certain. So you can find that link down at the top of the video description. And when you do so, a portion of your purchase also will come back and support me and the channel. So that's a win-win if you decide to go that way. But overall, another winning keyboard. And I feel sometimes like a bit of a broken record. Like, I'm generally pretty favorable about the keyboards that I check out here on the channel these days. Not every single one of them. There was that Corsair board a little while back that I wasn't crazy about. But legitimately, we are in a golden age of mechanical keyboards, you guys. Like, it has never been a better time to be in this hobby. You have never had more options, more customizability. You've never had better quality products than we have right now. The enthusiast space is just growing by leaps and bounds in terms of what it offers, and the sort of mainstream consumer space is following close behind, especially with the incredible variety of options from a lot of these Chinese manufacturers, which are following on those sort of innovations in the enthusiast community and bringing that stuff down to a more reasonable price point than some of the more exclusive group buys and things like that. So anyway, a bit rambly, but overall, IQUNIX OG80 Wormhole, excellent keyboard, really fun to use, looks fantastic, sounds fantastic. If you like the look of it and it ticks all the boxes for you, highly recommend it. You can check it out once again through that link down in the video description, and you can save a few bucks while you are at it. Extra big thank you to IQUNIX for sponsoring this video, for sending over the product sample that we looked at here today. And an extra big thank you to all of you as well for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you found it informative. And of course, I hope you found it relaxing. And I look very forward to having you back here next time. Bye for now, my friends.